What is going on, guys? New York Sports Up here, and I'm back at it with another New York Giants video. I'm going to be making another New York Giants video, but this video is going to be about which player needs to improve the most to, improve this pass rush, because we know how weak this pass rush was last year. We know we didn't really have a strong edge rusher. We did bring in Leonard Williams, but he didn't perform at the rate we wanted him to. So I'm just going to be making a video just what player on this Giants defense needs to improve the most to, make this pass rush a lot better, because we know we need a lot of pass rush, because we didn't sack a lot of guys. We didn't sack a lot of quarterbacks last year. I think we might have been third to last in sacks. Obviously, you know how bad this defense was overall. But we didn't sack a lot of guys. We didn't put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Obviously, allowing the other team to convert on third downs was a huge problem for us, like third down and long, allowing them to convert. And not be able to break through offensive lines. We just didn't really have a great pass rush last year. It's one of the worst in the league, and it's something that needs to improve. Vastly needs to improve, because we all know how frustrating it was to watch this defense. We have a lot of talented players that can perform well on the pass rushing side of the ball. But they just didn't really perform to the rate we wanted them to. So let's talk about who do we have? Who do we have on this team that can perform? We have Leonard Williams as the defensive end. We picked him off the New York Jets. Obviously, we know Leonard Williams is a really solid player. He was, I think it might have been a Pro Bowler in 2016, 2017. He was one of the stronger defensive ends in the NFL for the Jets. I think that a lot of people didn't like the signing. Personally, I am a fan of the signing. Maybe franchising him wasn't the greatest idea, but at least we have somebody for the future that can help this team a lot. Maybe a veteran, help this young pass rush and help it to be a better team overall. So personally, I was a fan of the signing of the Leonard Williams signing. Once again, I know a lot of people are not a fan of it. Personally, I was a fan of it, so it's kind of an unpopular opinion there. But I think Leonard Williams will perform well this year. Obviously, he had some pretty good games last year. He wasn't terrible. He played well in the game against the Eagles, where Pat Shurmur didn't play him in the final overtime drive where the Eagles marched down the field and scored a touchdown to Zach Ertz. I don't think they played him on the field. He had Leonard Williams had some pretty solid game for us when we signed him, mid-season last year. I thought he was a pretty decent signing. I thought he played pretty well for us, but I think we can expect a little bit better season now that he's going to play a full season in Giants uniform. So I'm pretty excited to see what how Leonard Williams performs. Hopefully he can lead this defense to a stronger season. Personally, I will think this defense will improve. I think Leonard Williams will be one of our top defensive ends. Him and Dalvin Tomlinson, I'm really excited to watch. I think that's going to be a pretty solid duo over there, so I'm very excited to watch that duo, and I think he can be a really solid player for us. So moving on to some undrafted free agents. Obviously, we got guys that weren't really huge for us, weren't really huge moves, but we had Olawulebedeku. Once again, I don't know how to say this guy's name, so if anybody knows, can tell me, because I have no idea how to pronounce his name. But we undrafted him. I think this guy's pretty solid. I haven't watched too much highlights of him, but I think Bedeku, or Betiku, however you say his name, is actually could be a pretty solid edge rusher for this team. Making the team this season, personally, I don't see it. You don't really undrafted players usually don't make the team, but I think he looks pretty solid. Obviously, I didn't really hear much of his name before we got him out of the undrafted section of the draft. But I think he can be pretty solid. Once again, maybe not affect this team after maybe this year, but maybe in a couple years he can make the team and play pretty well for us. So I'm excited to see what he does. I think he's an interesting player. And this one of the other undrafted. Well, he wasn't undrafted. We got him in the 7th round, and this is a linebacker I really like. We got him in the 7th round. I think he was a really sneaky good pick, and that's Carter Coughlin. He's a linebacker. I think he went to Minnesota, if I'm not wrong. University of Minnesota. If you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where he went. We drafted him in the 7th round, and personally, he was my favorite pick out of the 7th rounders. I think he's a really solid player. I haven't watched too much highlights of him, but I think he's a really solid linebacker. I think he's a strong dude. I'm excited to see him play. Maybe he sneaks onto the team at some point. I'm not 100% sure, but maybe he gets a chance sometime at the end of the year, maybe in the next season. But I'm really excited to see what this kid can do, because I'm a big fan of Carter Coughlin, one of our best 7th-round picks, and one of the best edge rushers late in this draft. I thought that was a really good pick. And there's also some other guys that, once again, weren't just drafted, but guys we have that, like, as backups, like R.J. McIntosh. Didn't play too much last season, but he's a guy who could maybe have a chance of making up the team. Obviously, we haven't watched too much of him, so we don't really know his talent, but maybe he can make this team. And there's a lot of other guys. We've got guys like Ryan Connolly, once again, who had the season-ending injury last year. And, Ryan Connolly, once again, performed really well. He had some nice interceptions. I think one against Tampa and one against Washington. I think he got injured in the game against Washington. He was one of our more promising players. I mean, I thought he was really good for us. I think he might have been a rookie. And I thought Connolly is really solid. He's one of our more underrated defensive players on this team. And we got guys like O'Shane Ximines, who we drafted last year. And O'Shane Ximines didn't perform to the way we expected him to. Obviously, we know he's got a lot of talent. We drafted him in the second or third round last draft. And I thought he was one of our better draft picks. I was very happy when we drafted him. Once again, our pass rush wasn't as bad as I thought it would be going into that draft. But I thought that was a really solid pick by the New York Giants. O'Shane Ximines, once again, I think he might lead the team in sacks. He's my prediction to lead the team in sacks. Obviously, I could be wrong, but that's because there's a lot of other guys who could definitely do it. But I think O'Shane Ximines could be a guy to lead this team in sacks. I think he's a really solid overall player. And personally, I'm excited to see what he can do this offseason. This season. Maybe he'll train well this offseason. I'm going to watch him in training camp. I'm excited to see what Ximines can do. And there's a lot of other guys that we signed in the regular signings in the offseason, not just guys that we drafted, guys like Blake Martinez. Obviously, a lot of people consider Blake Martinez to be a very overrated linebacker, and I watched a lot of his highlights. He had a very disappointing season last year with the Green Bay Packers, but overall, I think he's a solid linebacker. There's not too much elite linebackers in this league, so I thought Blake Martinez was a pretty decent signing by the New York Giants, one of the better linebackers out there. And we also signed Kyler Fackrell, who maybe could be a sneaky pick to lead the team in sacks last year. Obviously, we signed him to be an outside linebacker. I think Kyler Fackrell looks pretty solid. I haven't really heard much of his name until this season, until we signed him. But I think Fackrell could be pretty solid for us. Once again, another guy who could help this team out. Hopefully, we can see an early return from Ryan Connolly, so we can get a lot of guys healthy, and we can get a full team. We can get the full team healthy, and we can have a really solid pass rush. So there's a lot of players on this team that has a lot of talent. There's a lot of players that I think could really perform well this year. We have a lot of young guys, and we've also got a decent amount of vets who can lead this team to a decent pass rush. So we know this team's got a lot of talent. We know it. We know they have it. It's just the point is if they can unleash it, if they can unleash that talent. And this can be a really good pass rush for the future. So that's kind of going to do for this one. Kind of just a quick overview of, who we signed in the offseason, who we drafted, and who we have on the team right now. This overall team, what this linebacker squad can do, who can perform better. And overall, I think they can be pretty solid if they can just perform to their talent. So, who is the guy? This is the main question of the video. Who is the guy that can perform the best? Who is the guy that you think has to have the best season and needs to improve from last year? Who might have had disappointing? And for my opinion, it's Lorenzo Carter. And we all know how disappointing Lorenzo Carter was last season. He didn't really get much sacks, and he was a guy that we were a lot of Giants fans had a lot of high hopes on. We thought he would be one of our star linebackers, and personally, he just didn't really perform to that level. So we were very, very disappointed in him. Another guy, guys like Landon Collins, who had a really good 2016 year and was pretty terrible after that. And Janoris Jenkins had a really disappointing start to 2019. A guy who was really good back in 2016, kind of like Lorenzo Carter, but kind of a different situation. He's a young linebacker, and he's only going into second year. So once again, he's very young. He still needs one more year, to show what kind of player he is. But I think Lorenzo Carter is one of the more talented linebackers on this team, and I think if he can perform to his true potential, I think he can be one of our better linebackers and help this pass rush get better. So I think Lorenzo Carter is the main factor to this team. Why I think the Giants could have a solid pass rush. I think he's the guy we need to step up and perform the best. For this pass rush to help. Obviously, we got guys like Leonard Williams, who, once again, wasn't all around wasn't like a Pro Bowl level last season, but he did perform pretty well. But I think Lorenzo Carter is the main guy who needs to perform the best to make us help this pass rush go into the next step, go into the next get this pass rush, these edge rushers onto the next level, so we can have a solid defense and be better on third downs next year. So that's gonna do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Who's the player you think needs to step up the most? Personally, in my opinion, it's Lorenzo Carter. What's the player you think needs to step up the most? Obviously, guys like O'Shane Ximines and Leonard Williams, of course, because we franchised him. We want him to live up to all that money we gave him, and that's a guy you can definitely go there. But personally, Lorenzo Carter's my guy. Who's your guy? Who's your guy that you think needs to improve? Put it down in the comments below. And that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.